Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Startup Boston Podcast, where I interview founders, investors, and influencers in the Boston startup community to uncover actionable advice and stories from their experiences. I'm your host, Nick Dupuis. This is the 42nd episode of the podcast, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Brittany DiCapua of the Boston Food Journal. Brittany started the Boston Food Journal 1.5 years ago by sharing food on Instagram and has morphed into much more than a side project for her. You can check it out on the Instagram account Boston Food Journal, all one word, where she has over 17,000 followers. Or you can also visit the website bostonfoodjournal.com. She describes the Boston Food Journal as highlighting the food and dining industry through social marketing, blog and video content, and photography. The Boston Food Journal is a strong social influencer of local restaurants, small businesses, and technology applications throughout Massachusetts. We had a lot of fun in this episode and even take to Instagram Live to take questions directly from the Boston Food Journal's followers for Brittany to answer. Along with that, a few things Brittany talks about are how she juggles her full-time job and the Boston Food Journal, how she was able to get over the initial self-doubt and doubt from others when starting out, what's most important when growing a brand, and starting and pursuing side projects. And if you like today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you can get all of the new episodes as soon as they're released right on your podcast app. And as always, you can find today's show notes at startupbostonpodcast.com, and you can reach me at nic@startupbostonpodcast.com. Enjoy today's episode. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
To get us rolling here, for those listening to the podcast, can you tell us a little bit about your background and a little about the Boston Food Journal?
Yes, so I have an engineering degree from Worcester Polytech in Worcester, Mass. Straight out of college, I worked at a small digital agency in Cambridge called Valier, and I decided I wanted to fuse technology with business, so I was a digital project manager. And I was there for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and now I work at New Balance Corporate doing the same thing, but rather than working digitally, I work for application project management. And I've always felt like I was missing a creative outlet in my life. I love design. When I worked at Valier, I really learned that I love digital design specifically. And I also love art and photography, and who doesn't love food? So I decided in 2014 that I was going to create, or 2015, the Boston Food Journal. And that would just take all of my hungers of, design, art, photography, and food into one entity. So that's really the story. I didn't really plan much about it. I'm a planner, so it was odd when I just kind of decided to do this thing randomly. But, I think sometimes that's how the best decisions come about.
Did you have any sort of creative background beforehand?
Not really, no. I always grew up loving to draw and paint. I did a lot of painting when I was little. Gave my family, watercolor drawings and things like that. But no, I really didn't have much background in art. Just kind of, it was a side hobby, really.
What was your goal with the Boston Food Journal?
Honestly, starting it, I didn't realize what goals I could have. There's so many capabilities with an online digital marketing application, and I really just wasn't aware of that until I started working it. When I started, all I wanted to do was just share food with my friends and family. Mm-hmm. I do it all the time anyway, and I think we all know, we all go out, we all take pictures of our food.
Yeah, send it to people.
And one day I was like, I do this all the time. Maybe I should just make a thing. I didn't have name ideas. It was sporadic after I had dinner with my sister. And I thought of Boston Food Journal, and I loved the sound of it, and that's really how it came about.
How long was it from when you first had the idea to actually creating it?
Literally minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you plan in the early days, at least, to measure whether or not it was successful?
Yeah. I try to look back at the timeline of this and think, when did it really turn into a business rather than just a platform for sharing food? It's hard for me to say. It definitely took a lot of time for me to realize, wow, this is something that is not just a page to share followers with my friends, but this is an actual tool that restaurants, businesses, mobile applications, whatever, would want to actually use for marketing. I'd say it was probably 8 to 12 months into it that I started to really gain followers quickly and realize that there's a whole world with food blogging and influencing. I didn't even really know what the term influencer was. Mm-hmm. It's still new to a lot of people.
When did you first recognize that this was something that you could do long-term and work with restaurants, for example, and other people to promote?
I'll never forget the first organization that reached out to me. It was a small candy shop local to Boston, and they asked me if they could send me a bunch of samples. And I remember I was so excited because to me, I was like, this is awesome. I didn't realize that there was a life out there with, working, collaborating, and doing all these sorts of things with organizations. So they sent me the chocolate. I was flattered, I was over the moon excited. And after that, they, people started reaching out to me. And that's when I realized, wow, there's a lot of requests coming through every day. People are really seeking me out, probably because, my word goes out to so many people. So, people really cherish that and see the value in that. So I think that after that first gift of candy, I realized that there was much more. It's more powerful than I thought.
And just a reminder to those on the live stream to just submit questions, and we will be answering them towards the end. So just submit your questions and we'll get to them later on. So how do you have a full-time job as well? Yep. So how do you juggle your full-time job with Boston Food Journal?
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie. I work 9 to 5, and then typically every evening I have something going on for the BFJ. It's not easy to juggle, but it's fun. I'm never not excited to go to anything with BFJ, whether it's a dinner, something like this, an interview, or, a photo session. It's my way to relax from the busy day to day. I work in tech. This has nothing to do with that. And it's really just my way of relaxing. So I'd rather be doing this than sitting at home on the couch. But I would say time management is important. I do have the flexibility to create my own schedule typically. So I do try to limit the amount of events I do per week. It's important to sleep. I get a lot of sleep. And really just make sure I, put myself first, but also I really like the intensity of the things that I'm doing right now.
What are some of the biggest difficulties with running the food blog?
I would say availability. I miss out on a lot of daytime events, brunches, lunches. And I think, eventually it does get very exhausting having 2 work streams to think about, prioritizing those. My full-time job always has to come first to an extent. I rarely find that they ever really collide priority-wise. I think I've never had to sacrifice really one thing for the other. So I've done well to mesh them, but I think, it's just prioritization, time management, and that's how you get through it.
How much time does it take up for you?
I'd say about every evening I have an event, and then in my free time, I'm kind of always checking my Instagram. All my foodie friends know. We have group messages. If any of you are watching, hey. But we always chat. We have big groups where we just say random things. I'm going here. How's this? So I'm always checking messages, always on email, always looking at people's photos. And it's like, even when I don't have to do it, I find myself doing it because I just love I love all the hype around it.
What are some things that you've learned from some of the other food bloggers?
Yeah, the foodie community is really tight-knit. It really is like a group of us. We see the same people at all the events, and it's really awesome. It's a good support network. It's not competitive, and no one really tries to step on each other's toes. Everyone knows that we all have our own niche, we all have our own style, we all have our own way of doing things, and we respect that and just support each other, which is really awesome.
Now, where does your love of food come from?
I grew up in an Italian household. Okay. So, food was our thing. Every night we had dinner at the dinner table, literally every night. If my dad worked late, we'd have it late. If my sister was at, play practice or I was at dance, we always had dinner together. And even in college, when I was stressed, going out to eat was kind of my way of relieving my stress. I'd say to my friends, hey, let's go get sushi at, Baba Sushi or the Soul Proprietor, all the spots. Yeah. We used to do that as a way to stress relief from all of the hard work. So that's when I really realized that food is not just something I eat to live. It's more a passion and a hobby of mine, and it genuinely makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Again, just a reminder to those joining on the live stream to submit your questions. I see some people already have, and we'll be getting to answer them shortly.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, we'll definitely answer all your questions at the end.
So what did some of your friends and family think when you initially told them that you were starting a food blog?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I am the type of person that if I have an idea, I just, I'm impulsive. I just act on it. So I think initially my family and friends thought that this was, one of those just crazy ideas that I have. And they'll support me, but they don't really, they didn't really know the capabilities of it either. I definitely got support. Some people were just like, oh, Brett, another one of your ventures.
Yeah.
But now, my friends and my family are my biggest fans, and I love that. I can share everything with them, get advice from them. Some of my best friends, I'll send them pictures. Which one looks better? I call them my editors in cheese. That's what I say. But, everyone's really supportive. My family would never doubt anything I wanted to do. So I'm lucky in that sense.
So I have a quote that I want to read from one of the blog posts that you wrote, and then a question following it. So you wrote, I was hesitant to create the BFJ. I questioned whether or not I had the skills to develop a social presence. More importantly, did I even have the time? I feared that my friends, family, and peers would make fun of me, or even worse, doubt me.
Yep.
So how did you get over that initial self-doubt and potential doubt from other people?
Yeah, I think the only way to get over self-doubt is to just realize that you're doing this for yourself. I had a lot of doubt, and I was mostly afraid of failure, like we all are. What if I make this big hubbub about this? Ooh, follow me, I'm doing this big thing, and it just flops. But I really realized, you don't succeed unless you try. You also don't fail unless you try. But I realized this was something I was doing for me. The people, the followers, the people who, love my page, whatever, that comes secondary. At first I was like, I got to start this for the right reasons. And that's me personally loving food, wanting to share pictures with people. If people aren't behind that, then, at least I feel like the cause is really genuine. That answers the question.
Yeah.
I think really just not being afraid. And the only way to figure out if something's going to be successful or not is just to do it.
It sounds like you were doing it more for yourself more than for other people, right? And I think that helps with that.
I mean, at first, yes. And now I really do care about all my followers. So thankful for them. And every day I try to just, give them what they like. If they like donut pictures, I'm going to post donuts. When I get feedback, I take that seriously. I really appreciate good and bad feedback. And I really, I couldn't do this without my followers. So I really appreciate all that they've done for me. And, I listen to everything. I see all of your comments. If you've messaged me, I've responded. So, I really try to it is for me, but now it is for the people who look to my page for restaurant advice or just a good laugh here and there. So, yeah,
I think that's something that you've been really good at is actually, going into the comments and talking to people once they're commenting on your posts.
Yeah, I really try to do
responding to them.
Yep.
Did you think that it's been 1.5 years now? Has it?
Yep, a little over 1.5.
Did you think when you first started that you'd still be doing it 1.5 years later?
I don't think so. I don't really know what I thought. Now I see a major future with the BFJ. But I think when I first started, it was just in the moment. I wasn't even planning or didn't even know what would come of this. So now I do see this, going on for forever. If I want it to, it really is going to be something I take deep into the future.
So going off of that, what are some things that you see for the future of BFJ?
I have some things up my sleeve coming soon, but really just continuing what I'm doing, maybe expand my blog a bit more, work to collaborate more with bloggers, restaurateurs, small businesses, and do more speaking engagements like this as well.
What do you believe is most important when growing a brand on Instagram, and what's been the largest breakthrough learning for you?
There's a lot of Instagram strategy points that I've learned in doing this. But I think the number one thing is be genuine. Like I said earlier, if you start something like this to make money, to get free food, people know that. That is not why I started it. That's not why any of my friends started their accounts. The number one thing is be genuine. And people can really sense that. If you love food and you're doing this because you love it, people will sense that passion. And the other thing is consistency. I think establishing a brand, being very consistent with that brand. I do that by making sure my photo style is the same. My colors in my photo are the same. You'll never see me posting a photo in a dark black room, because that just wouldn't go with my aesthetic. So keeping an aesthetic similar, my captions are all concise and similar. I just feel like I'm very consistent with the way that I approach each photo. And then the last thing I think is, speak with your followers. Engagement is important. Really just, you don't want to just be an account that doesn't connect with anyone. I want to connect with everyone that follows me, and I want them to feel like they've connected with me personally. So I'm really trying to put my personality into it and connect with my followers, and continue to engage with them.
And just a reminder to everyone to submit your questions, and we'll be getting to those at the end.
Yes.
If you're listening or watching on Instagram Live, submit your questions, and Brittany will answer them.
Yes, I will. I'm excited to hear your questions, so make sure you submit them. I'm happy to answer anything you guys want to know.
What are some of the mistakes that you made early on, especially with growing the BFJ?
That was a tough question. I was reading through. I think my first mistake was just doubting the capabilities that this could be. Maybe a little self-doubt as well. But I think if I had started really leveraging connections and collaborating and really, I said consistency, engagement, and authenticity. I wish that I really established those 3 pillars earlier on. But I think I wouldn't say anything's a mistake. I'm learning as I go. Anything that I do mess up or, do wrong, I just take as a learning example. So I wouldn't even call them mistakes. I would just say I'm learning every day, taking the things that I learn and spinning them in a positive way. Mm-hmm. So if that answers your question, it's a tough one.
Why do you think you ventured away in the beginning from that authenticity and consistency?
I think just because of fear, and time. Do I have the time? Can I really do this? What's it even going to take? I don't know anything about Instagram. Like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. That was kind of my thought process once I realized the capabilities that came along with this. But, like I said, the only way to conquer fear is just to push through something and try it. And there's nothing wrong with failure.
I agree with that. I want to talk a little bit now about your process.
Yep.
What goes into each post. So tell me a little bit about, first, how do you decide what it is that you're going to post?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of restaurants. They'll reach out to me to come in and promote a specific event or, a new menu item, or could be anything, new chef. And so typically I like to post same day. That's not always easy, so sometimes I have a backlog of posts. But, I usually post on places that I have been invited to, or also just places that I go. I still go a lot of places on my own will freely. So if I thought that I had a genuine good experience there, I'll post about it. Mm-hmm. And the process for posting is, for me, it's not as complicated as you would think. I edit within Instagram, unless I need to do some sort of blurring or anything else that I can't do within Instagram. But I just edit within Instagram and make sure that I have all my hashtags lined up, and then it's ready to go live.
What are some things that you currently struggle with? I
think perfectionism. I'm a perfectionist. I always have been.
Trying to make everything perfect?
Trying to make everything perfect. And that's not just with a photo. It's just with everything. And I think we all struggle with perfectionism. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say that's my biggest hurdle. But again, I try to spin that in a positive light. I like that I hold the BFJ to a standard. And I guess, you don't always hit that standard. So there's nothing wrong with that.
How does your background in project management help you with the Boston Food Journal? Yeah,
I definitely think it does help me because I treat every restaurant, business, and individual who reaches out to me like I would have treated a client or a coworker. And I have that professional corporate background that I use as the BFJ. I take it very seriously. So I try to, always follow up, send an email after, give criticism if it's constructive, really just nurture the relationships I have with all the restaurateurs as I would with a client or, someone internally where I work.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you enjoy diving into the unknown and learning. Mm-hmm. Is that, especially with this, you didn't know anything, like you said, about promoting anything on Instagram to begin with. Is that something that you've always enjoyed?
Yes. Yep. I am always looking for something new to dabble in, took a photography class recently. I try to bake here and there. I'm not that good at it, cooking or new types of activity, hiking or dancing. I always try to do something new and keep busy. So this was just an expansion off of one of my activity-seeking, activity-seeking, I don't know what I'm trying to say. My activity-seeking self, this was just an expansion off of one of those things.
You've been to a lot more restaurants than most people have.
Yep.
So what do you believe makes a restaurant special, unique?
I love this question because I have been to so many, as have a lot of us. What I search for in a restaurant is heart and passion. And I'm telling you, sometimes you go and it is just so stone cold. Here's your food. Bye. I love when people come over and tell me all about the plate, what it was inspired from, how long they've been working there, all their coworkers that they work with, why they love this dish and that dish. You can really get a sense of restaurants that have just so much heart, and I love that. Those are the places that I go back to on my own will.
The ones that put that love into it?
Yep, and are just, you can sense their excitement when I'm there, just telling me about the plates and everything. That I really admire, and that's what I seek out now on my own. Places that have heart, and just heart and soul.
To you, what has been the most surprising part of running?
I think there's a lot of things that have been surprising. One is I've grown as a person. I'll go to events now with lots of people by myself. I'm not afraid to just be alone, represent myself, and meet new people. And in doing this, I've met so many awesome people, whether it's people I work with like this or other bloggers or, restaurant groups or agencies. And I just love that I have all these connections around the city. And I've really gotten a lot of friendships from that, which is amazing. Nothing I ever expected would happen.
Just a reminder to those watching on Instagram Live to be posting your questions in there, and Brittany will be answering them soon.
Yes. Stay with us. We'll get to the questions at the end.
I want to talk a little bit about side projects.
Yes.
Specifically because this is a side project for you.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast is a side project for me, so it's something that I think we both feel pretty passionately about.
Yep.
So are side projects something that you've always pursued?
Yes. And I would push everyone out there to pursue a passion, a side project, whatever it is. I've done a lot of, I don't want to say press, but I've done a lot of blog posts and written pieces about pursuing your passion alongside what you think your obligation is. So, I have an engineering degree. I decided I did not want to sit in a laboratory with cells all day because I was a tissue engineer. And that's how I decided to fuse business with tech and take a application or digital software project management role. But again, I was missing that creative outlet. And I feel like so many people feel boxed into their careers. I studied this, I have to be this. And I really want to push people to think outside the box because any skill you've acquired in any job in your past can be put towards something in your present. Mm-hmm. You asked me, how does your project management bake into BFJ? It does every day. I think I do things, I don't want to say better because I'm not comparing. I'm just saying I like how I operate with my side hobby because of what I've learned in the past through engineering, through project management. So really, I try to push people to think outside the box. If you feel like you want to pursue something, but it's not in your wheelhouse or you're not comfortable with your current profession, don't be afraid to take your skills and apply them to anything that you want to do. The sky is the limit.
What if someone wants to start a side project, but they're not sure what it is they should work on? How should they identify that?
Yeah, I think it's important to not rush into anything and just really take some time, reflect on what your passions are and what you love to do. Think of your skill set. If you're a strong writer, if you like to do public speaking, whatever it is, you can take your skill set and align it with your passion and not rush it. The BFJ was something that came to me naturally, and I think that's important. Any side hobby, should come naturally and not be forced.
Mm-hmm. And be something that you love doing.
Right. And that's how it will grow, is when you really start it for those right reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you start it, like if you had started Boston Food Journal with the goal of getting, X amount of followers,
right,
you probably wouldn't have continued to do it after, the first month or two.
Right. That was never my intention.
Right.
Even now, like I said, it's about me and it's about my followers, making them happy. I'm so happy with what it is right now. I love that it's growing, but it's not about the numbers for me. It's about just being able to share what I love with all these people who love to see what I'm doing and love to see where I'm meeting and just being able to share a common interest with all these people is amazing.
I want to move now into our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, do you cook? And if so, how often do you cook? And what are some of the things that you like to cook?
So I said this to my mom the other day. I'm a terrible cook, but I'm great at presenting food to look fabulous. I'm a great food stylist, but I'm not the best cook. So what that means is I can make, a dish, prepare it so it looks beautiful, but it's probably got some sort of missing ingredient or something like that. I'm a better baker. I like to bake cookies and brownies, but cooking is something I'm working on. Yeah, I'm not the best.
What are some of your other favorite food blogs?
I have a lot. It's actually really hard to name them just because all of the Boston food bloggers, I love them all. Like I said, they're all great. We're all great for our own ways. We have different styles and that's awesome. I also am obsessed with some cookie baking food blogs. There's a blogger called Holly Fox. She decorates these beautiful cookies with all of these bright pastel colors, and her designs are just so clean and crisp, and I love them. Baked Ideas is another great cookie baker. I really love the cookie decorating stuff. I could watch those videos forever. They're addicting.
What do you love eating that people would probably be surprised to know?
I have to see what I wrote for this, because I can tell you something that I hate eating that people would probably be confused about. I hate peanut butter.
Really?
I hate it.
Always?
Always.
Always have?
Yes. I just hate it. I also hate mayo. So when I get something that has aioli on it, it's rough. But what did I write? Oh, I actually here and there will love a good Big Mac.
Really?
Yeah.
People will probably be surprised to know that.
I do. A good Big Mac here and there. Can't complain.
Outside of food, what do you love?
I love being with my friends and family. I love the outdoors. I grew up on the coast of Maine, so I love the beach. I just love being around people. I like to write now. I never did in college, but now I really love to write. I'd say there's nothing I really don't love to do. I'm down to do anything. I love to travel. Pretty just outgoing, adventurous person.
What are some of your favorite tools that help make your life and work easier?
So I have brought it with me, a physical planner. People always make fun of me because they're like, just do it on your iPhone. I have to see my whole month and what's going on in my month. This I cannot live without. It has everything in it.
Okay.
So that is a tool of mine. Very old school, but I love it. I guess my iPhone, obviously, because I do everything on my phone. And then my digital camera.
What are some of your favorite blogs or books?
I love Stephen King books. I'm not sure why. I just love his writing style. Honestly, it's hard for me to pick up a book and read, but the last couple books I have read were Stephen King. So that would be my answer.
Any favorite specific ones?
I love The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Okay.
That's a good one. Has anyone read it? Have you read it?
I haven't, no.
It's really good. It's he's from Maine, so a lot of them are New England based. It's about a girl who gets lost in the mountains and has a recording of the Red Sox, and that kind of keeps her sane throughout her daily struggles. Yeah, it's cool.
Okay. One final question before we get to answering the questions that people are submitting on Instagram Live.
Yep.
Do you have any parting thoughts, advice, or suggestions for the audience?
I think my parting advice is, I really try to hit home on the subject of don't be afraid to pursue your dreams. Don't be afraid that you're underqualified for something, and remember that the skills you acquire in one place can be transferred anywhere else that you want to apply them. You don't have to have the exact skill set to a T to do what you want. Never doubt yourself, and the best way to prove people wrong is just to do it. And failing is not a bad thing.
I think, I don't know who said it, but there's a quote. Someone said, if I always did what I was qualified to do, I would be sweeping with a broom somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Something like that.
Yep, you always got to push for the limit.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that happens is you can be denied or you can fail, and who cares? Just get back up and try something else.
You ready to answer some questions?
I'm ready.
All right, I'll start at the top.
Okay, so we're doing all of your questions now, so...
And keep submitting them.
Keep submitting them.
She'll keep answering
Happy to
them.
answer.
M. Venata.
Ooh, Marielle.
Okay. What's your favorite foodie event you've been to recently?
Great question, Marielle. I don't know if you're still on, but let me think. I go to a lot of them. It's hard to say. I recently went to a launch party for a food blog group that was very fun. Lots of my friends were there. Great food, great bites. I love events where I can see my friends and just enjoy a good drink and a cocktail. So that was really fun.
Chocolate Chip Boston wants to know, who makes the best chocolate chip cookie in Boston?
Well, probably Chocolate Chip Boston. No. That's a hard question. I live near Georgiana's in the South End. I post a lot of her cookies because they're just so beautiful. I do love those. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, check out my feed. Huge chocolate chunks, and usually you can always get them hot off the press, so I do like those.
FOMO Prescription wants to know, if a donut could wear a Kentucky Derby hat, what style would it wear?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say it would have to be something like an ice cream, like swirl or something with sprinkles on it. Mm-hmm. You know, like a really tall, almost like a witch hat, but with half and half chocolate vanilla swirl.
Treats Brazil wants to know, did you ever try Brigadeiro?
Oh, yes. I have never tried them, but I know what they are. And I actually featured my friend Abby, if you're listening, writes my newsletter for me. And we featured, I think you say Brigadeiro. They're chocolate, like little chocolate truffles. We featured an online company, and she said they were excellent. So that is on my list of things to try.
Was it Marielle? Mm-hmm. You said? Wants to know Cali Food Journal.
So Marielle is my friend who just moved to Cali. And I do want to get out there for the food. I do need to expand to some other cities. Cali is on my list.
And that is all we have for questions right now.
Awesome.
Brittany, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thanks everyone for listening and for submitting questions.
Yes. If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You'll get all my new episodes as soon as they're released right on your podcast app. And if you really liked today's episode, it would mean a lot to me if you could write a review of the podcast as well. Just go to startupbostonpodcast.com/iTunes. And remember, you can find all show notes with links at startupbostonpodcast.com. Until next time, if you have any feedback, ideas for guests, or just want to say hi, you can reach me at nic@startupbostonpodcast.com. Or reach out on Twitter at startupbosscast. That's startup BOS cast. Cheers.